Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at Ask Adam Torres. And if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Become a Guest to Apply. All right, so today I have Bruce Elfenbein on the line, and he's a certified financial fiduciary, and he's also a founder over at SecuRetirement. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Welcome here to South Florida, and good to see you.
Oh man, so I'm excited to talk to you today. So for those of you that have been watching the show for a while, you probably have seen Bruce before. Bruce was published in one of our previous books. Awesome content there in one of our Mission Matters books. And we're always in for a treat with Bruce. Let's just say that there'll be a riot here today. And we're recording this on New Year's Eve of 2020, going into 2021. Really excited to end out this year with you, Bruce.
Yeah, Adam, it's good to kick 2020 to the curb where it belongs. We have a lot of optimism and a lot of hope for 2021, basically because 2020, has set the bar so low that, all we figure if we end up the year on this side of the dirt, it's a good year,
Yeah, for sure. So Bruce, we have a lot to cover today, and I'm really excited to bring this story to my audience and really to encapsulate just a bit of your career that we can do on the time here today. Because I've seen a lot of media you've done. I mean, you're all over the place, but I haven't really seen the story. Like, how did Bruce get started in this? Like, how did you get started in this journey? I haven't seen that, so I'm excited to have the exclusive on that one. So, I mean, just give us just maybe we start out at the beginning, Bruce. Like, how did you get started on this path?
Well, initially when I moved to South Florida was because one of my closest friends and I, decided we wanted to open a business with the idea, our model is we would grow it and then get it to a certain point, we would franchise it and then, maybe sell it to Pepsi or Yum Brands or something like that. And so we did. We started this a little over 20 years ago, offering gourmet pizzas, salads, and wraps in South Florida. The company was called The Big Tomato. They're still there. We started franchising. We got a couple of stores open. And I found myself taking all my daytime hours working with my owners in their stores. Taking them by the hand, teaching them how to market, teaching them how to build the business. But, because I was using all my daylight hours there, I wanted to make a little extra money and, we pay bills and, things like that. And I ended up going to work for the Hartford. And the Hartford is an excellent company. It was a great place to get started. One day I was working with a client. They were having an issue because they really needed to get disability insurance, but disability insurance was expensive. And I showed them a way we could use what was called a hybrid product, where it was life insurance with a rider on there giving them disability, which would give them the same coverage plus life insurance at a lower cost than the disability by itself. So they were tickled. And at that point, the woman said, wow, you really have a great job. She says, you get paid to help people.
Wow.
And something, I never thought about it that way. And she was right. And something, at the end of the day, Adam, when you go home and you look in the mirror and you say, did I make a difference in this world today? Did I impact anybody's life in a positive way? The answer is always yes. And you finally get to the point, but that you realize that, other than maybe a rock star or a professional athlete, I got the greatest job in the world. I get paid to help people, and it's a blast. I've never had so much fun in my life.
That's awesome. And so you've been an entrepreneur, you've been self-employed for a long time now, and there's some people listening right now that are maybe earlier on their journey. What kind of advice would you give to some of the people that are listening that are kind of just getting started out there? And it can be, by the way, in financial services or otherwise, just in general.
Well, if you have that vision, the idea is, and I hate to throw platitudes at you, but we've all heard the expressions, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. You need to find your passion and you need to pursue it. And guess what? For some people, it's like real easy, and they just slide right into it and have instant success. Others struggle, and they really work hard. But listen, if it's your passion and you have that vision, you stick with it. You know, the stories of numerous failures. You know, how many times Edison failed at the light bulb before he found a combination that worked. You know, it's legendary stuff. Well, the same for business. You know, if you have that vision and that passion, you'll find a way to make it work.
I love that answer, Bruce. Whenever somebody brings that up, I'm always like, well, I was on the slow learner's path. I'm probably 20 businesses in since I was 16 before I came up with my co-founder, Mission Matters, and we finally got something that works. So I wasn't one of those, you find the right one the first time type of people. So if you're watching this and you're still looking, don't worry, just keep on trying. That's what I say.
That's it. You know, you only fail when you give up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, you may have setbacks, but you keep going. You only fail when you give up.
So let's talk about, I want to talk to some of the financial services people for a moment out there that are just getting started in that type of career because, there's a lot out there to choose right now. And at a certain point, you chose a niche. So you had a feel, because financial services is huge. You can do a lot of different things, but how did you know, or tell us a little bit more about how you went about like choosing the niche or choosing what you would focus on?
Well, I think I went through what a lot of advisors go through in the beginning. You're kind of a generalist. You know, you realize you can do everything. You need long-term care. I can help with that. You need life insurance. I can help with that. How about medical? I can help with that. Medicare supplements. You try to be everything to everybody, and then you realize that's not the way to build a business. I mean, think about your doctors. You know, your primary care doctor is the guy that kind of maintains your health, but it's a specialist that saves your life.
Hmm.
And your doctors make good money, but the specialists make better money. So, after you've been in the field for a little bit, you discover that and you get that advice over and over again, find your niche. Well, I ended up choosing the niche of retirement planning. Why? Hey, listen, I'm old, so the people that are retiring, these are my peers. It would seem like a natural way to go. Plus, not just helping them, it's helping me, helping my wife. I often say hope is not a plan. You need to have a good plan, and when you learn how to do it, it's an education that never ever stops. I would say I spend a minimum of 15 or 20 hours a week on study, on books, on magazines, on the latest tax laws, the latest strategies. Things never change. Always change. Think about your doctor. If you went to see your doctor and said, I got out of medical school 30 years ago, never cracked another book, I know everything that I need to know to practice medicine, you'd start looking around going, in the last 30 years, maybe there were a couple new drugs, maybe a couple new treatments, things like that. So you want someone that's on the cutting edge. Most of what I do, again, in the way of retirement planning, I guess is more about taxes. If you have proper tax planning and you set it up right, it's amazing the difference it makes. I'm working with people now that just making small moves at hundreds of thousands of dollars to their bottom line in retirement. And I tell them it's not about buying, a crazy product or taking a lot of risk and investing. The idea is like, hey, if we do this, we can get your tax rate down to almost zero. That money that you're not paying in taxes, that adds up.
Yeah, it does. Let's get into, I want to talk a little bit more about culture and what that idea of that client connection looks like, because I know you keep close relationships. And I feel like financial services is a relation type business. Tell us a little bit more about what that means to you.
And you're absolutely right, Adam. Again, when I first started off with the Hartford, it was a one and done. Go in, sell them, see you later. Don't follow up. Don't do say, so once you deliver that policy, go away. And, that struck me. I didn't even know what I was doing, but I knew that was wrong. And this business is about relationships because, when you work with someone, you usually don't work with them one time. I work with people. My oldest client's been with me like 16, 17 years. And when I say my oldest client, he's 98, so I'm not exaggerating when I say he's my oldest client. But, you're with people because they need you during those times in life where there are changes. Somebody is born, somebody gets sick, somebody dies, somebody needs to go into a nursing home. All of us, somebody gets married, somebody gets divorced. You have all these changes in life. Bar mitzvahs don't count. And that's when they really need you. That's when they reach out. Bruce, this has just happened, or I'm thinking about doing this. What should we do? And you have to take each one of those events and set your clients up for the most favorable outcome that they can get. And it's all about the relationship, getting to know them, getting to know the family, and knowing, what their goals are, where they're going, and how they want to get there. And, you become part of that team, you become very, very invested in their life.
I feel like you, and I know you've been doing this a long time. I feel like you got some funny client stories up your sleeve, because I know I have some funny ones from when I was in the business. So tell us one of your funny client stories. I feel like you got some.
Well, there's no shortage of them. Sometimes it's you go to see folks, and I've had women come to the door when we have an appointment, naked. And I'm like, yeah, I said, we need better coverage right now, not just with your insurance, but, can you put on a robe or something like that? My wife would, she'd shoot me. You always have things like that. But sometimes you get very, very interesting outcomes with some of the folks. And sometimes the planning you do, it's amazing, the effect it can have on them and their families, and they include you in it too. And as you can probably tell, I have a pretty good sense of humor, so they like to have me around.
That's
I
awesome.
wish I had a better funny story for you, man. I'll think of one later on. We'll go to that later on.
That's awesome.
I
So,
should have had one in my back pocket, and I didn't.
certified financial fiduciary. So tell us a little bit more about what that means and why you went that route, because I think it's a unique designation. I mean, CFPs. So I was a CFP at one point. I held that certification, but you went in my opinion, you went the next step with that CFF. So tell us a little bit more about what that is for the audience that maybe hasn't heard of it yet.
Well, CFP is an incredibly important designation because it's really about what you know. And face it, if people are looking for advisors, they want someone that knows what they're doing. No one says, okay, I'm looking for an advisor. Let me find the cheapest idiot in town. No, they got their money. They're trusting you with their money. They want somebody that's competent to handle it. Okay. The problem is today, you don't know who to trust.
Hmm.
And that's really what it boils down to. Now, when someone has a securities license, they're all supposed to act as a fiduciary. And a lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. And I am sometimes appalled at what I see out there. I'm like, no, wait a minute. These people are supposed to act as a fiduciary. And for those folks that don't know what that is, there are a lot of things a fiduciary does. And I kind of describe us as like the financial watchdogs of the industry. But the number one thing that we do is make sure the client's best interest is number one in everything we do. And become a certified financial fiduciary was a pain in the butt. It was laborious, but it was worth it because it lets people know, listen, I take this stuff seriously. I will always, always, always have your best interest as number one. Not what product's going to pay me a big commission. What product or products are going to do the best job for you. And something, that shouldn't be a stretch. These people work hard. Okay, the money that they have is precious to them, and you want to make sure that they never lose it, and you want to make sure that they do what's right. I just started working with a woman now. She says, "Well, I've been through a couple of advisors. I had some money. I don't have any money anymore, but I used to have some money." She said, "I followed their advice, and I guarantee you the advisor made money, not so much for her." And having to build that back up. But the thing that she said is, listen, I finally feel like I'm working with somebody I can trust, somebody that's looking out for me. And you can never, ever, ever let up on that. My granddaughter Sophia and I, well, both my granddaughters and I have very, very tight relationships. And there's one rule they have: never lie to grandpa. Well, not only will I always find out and can tell, but they understand that there's a bond of trust there. And when you lie just one time, that puts everything in doubt. Then you look back and say, well, they lied. What else did they lie to me about? You can never let up. When you're a fiduciary, it's always the same. It's always the client's best interest first. And I've had people say to me, but Bruce, you could be making more money. You could be, offering products at higher commission and stuff. And I said, yeah, well, that's theoretically true. Here's the thing. When people trust you and they know that you have their best interest at heart, you get plenty of business from that, and you get plenty of referrals from that. Okay. Because becoming a fiduciary is hard, and becoming a certified fiduciary, there's less than 1,000 of us in the entire country. So yeah, it's tough, but it's worth it, and I am really, really proud of that designation. And I always tell that to people. Now I'm also, I hadn't talked to you about this. I'm also a certified financial educator,
Mm.
and I do a lot of classes for a lot of nonprofits. And it was funny because once when I introduced myself as a certified financial fiduciary, one of the people in the audience raised their hand. They said, you say that like we know what it means. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of do. And I said, well, how many people know what it means? And there were 20 some people in the class, two hands went up. So you have to explain to them, listen, the number one thing is to understand we're here to look out for you and have your best interest at heart. And that is the basis for all of our recommendations and all our decisions. And quite frankly, Adam, it was hard getting the designation, but it makes life a lot easier. You don't have any problems making decisions or recommendations. You only have one guideline: client's best interest.
So I know you have a particular niche within financial services. I know you're working on retirement, things of that nature, but let's go a little bit into product and your beliefs and views around how you structure your practice. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, listen, there's something like 90,000 different financial products out there. It's tough for professionals to stay up on top of that, much less people that are they're trying to do it themselves. Yeah, I get it. And some people are real good at it. I've met a few people that have done well. But retirement planning is a little bit different than the other planning. Most of the advisors you work with, you start working with them, it's all about accumulation. And don't get me wrong, accumulation never stops. We always need to do better than the rate of inflation. I mean, what people are making in the bank today, I could put $100 in the bank. A year from now, I have a little bit more.
Mhm.
The insulting part is Uncle Sam gets part of that little bit. But even though I have a little bit more money, it buys less. So you need to stay ahead of that curve. You need to be able to do that. And you need to be able to do that with guaranteed products. Um, as I stated in the book, the secret to retirement, it can be boiled down to two words: guaranteed income. Guaranteed income is that thing that keeps the roof over your head and the food on the table and the internet on. It allows you to maintain your standard of living. When people are getting to retirement, they've attained a certain place in life and they're comfortable with their standard of living. No one has ever said to me, geez, Bruce, when I retire, My goal is to move into a crap hole cinder block apartment, break my meds in half, eat dog food, and have to put on a blue vest to say welcome to Walmart. That's not a dream retirement, you know. So having the guaranteed income, and there's a lot of great financial instruments that'll give you 4, 5, 6, 8% that are guaranteed, that you don't have to take a risk with. That'll help do that. Now, with that said, it's not like I'm telling people to not be in the market. I'm in the market. Um, when people say to me, "Well, Bruce, do you think the market is going to be higher tomorrow?" I don't know. How about next week? I don't know. Next year? I don't know. 10 years from now? Yes. 10 years from now, the market's going to be higher. 15 years, 20 years? Yes, the market's going to be higher. So the money that I have in the market at this point in my life is really for that 10, 20 years down the road to help me counter the effects of inflation and taxes. And getting into retirement, it's, even though we never stop accumulating, it's all about distribution,
Mhm.
all about making sure that money that you've worked so hard to save and grow and invest in your lifetime, you want to make sure you never run out of it, no matter how long you live. And then if you have any kids or any beneficiaries, you want to make sure you transfer it to them when, let's see, how do we put this? You go off to sing with the angels.
Yeah.
I guess that's better than saying taking a dirt nap. But I say, going off to sing with the angels, you want to make sure if you have money left that it goes the best way to your kids in order to minimize Uncle Sam's bite.
Mm. I don't believe you just said taking a dirt nap. I haven't heard that one, Bruce. You always come up with something new.
Well, listen, a lot of my clients, some of the people that come to me, these are people that aren't even buying green bananas anymore. I mean, we aren't sure how long they're going to be around, so you gotta deal with that accordingly.
So Bruce, I know you work with many different types of clients. I want to spend some time maybe talking about the different people at their different life stages. So, obviously we've talked a little bit about those going towards retirement. What about some of the people that are maybe just getting started or building their families or things like that? Like what kind of things should they be thinking about in this whole guaranteed space?
That's an excellent question, Adam, and you're right. We really shift gears to work with folks a little younger. Yes, my niche is retirement, and a lot of my clients 50s, 60s, 70s, a few 80s, some 90s, right? Um, and they ask me, can you work with my kids? Will you work with my kids? Obviously, I'm happy to do that. But when I'm working with people in their 20s and 30s, it's a different mentality
Mhm.
and it's a different product recommendation. We never, again, like I said, we never stop accumulating, but there are ways to do it. Albert Einstein once said, the greatest invention of the 20th century is compound interest. And he's right. And if you're young enough, there's certain things you can get into at a younger age that you don't have to do a whole lot. You let compound interest work its magic and you're fine. Let me give you a really good example. I work with this chiropractic office down in Key Largo, and everyone there is a client,
Mhm.
and they had a new chiropractor start, and she was in her mid 20s, and they all told her, "Listen, Bruce takes care of our retirement. You got to go talk to him." So I met with her one night, and her needs are totally different. She's just starting off in life. Okay. And my call was this: she was in her mid 20s, very personable, very sweet, very cute, very nice, great sense of humor, had a really nice boyfriend. They had a great relationship. The writing was on the wall as to where I thought that relationship was going to go. I was right, by the way.
Ah,
Um, Now, one of the things we did when I started working with her is like, okay, we see what your budget is. We see how much money you're making. After you have all your bills paid on, how much money do you have left over, at the end of the month? And at that point, she had about $1,000 a month left over. And she was just getting started. So there were two things I said were going to happen to her. Number one, her practice was going to grow, her product sales would grow, she would have a lot more than $1,000 at the end of the month. But her relationship would grow. She would get married. She would have kids. Once you have kids, there is no such thing as $1,000 left over at the end of the month. So I said, look, let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit. Don't worry about the 1,000 because one day you're really going to need that. But we figured a monthly investment from her of $300 a month was something she could do today, tomorrow, next week, next year. And we set her up in such a way she would put $300 a month in. And when she retired at age 65, she would begin taking a tax-free, and this is, I love the words tax-free. You know, it's like there's certain combinations that work real well, like seafood buffet, you know, but you have tax-free, and that's a beautiful word and a beautiful phrase. And when she was able to retire, she would begin taking a income tax-free of over $100,000 a year for the rest of her life. And then when she finally went off to sing with the angels, we'll make that nice, right? She would leave behind a couple $1,000,000 for her family. And this is all because of the effects of compound interest. She would have contributed from the beginning to the end less than $100,000 into this, and she would start taking $100,000 a year tax-free and leave behind millions. Not a bad way to go.
Yeah, and I guess two of the big things there is tax-free. And historically, I mean, right now when we're recording this in 2020, I mean, taxes are like historically really low if you really think about it. Like it's been higher in the future. So this is not only when you think about diversifying a portfolio or diversifying your investments. I mean, you know, of course, people have 401ks, other things like that, or possibly depending to their work or just other investments in general. But this idea of really hedging your retirement with tax-free income. I mean, if somebody's not out there doing it, really the question is why, right?
Right. And you really would want to. Let me give you the great analogy. Suppose you're a farmer. Would you rather pay the taxes on a $100 bag of seed or on $10,000 worth of harvest? Okay, it's kind of a no-brainer. You know, the taxes can be the killer. And you're right, we are in one of our historically lowest tax brackets of all time. When they started with the income tax system the way we know it in 1913, the things have gone almost nowhere but up. In fact, in the 1940s, our highest marginal tax rate was over 90%. It was at that time that Ronald Reagan was the biggest star in Hollywood. And as the biggest star, he got paid the most. He got that kingly sum of $100,000 per picture, which was a fortune then. But President Reagan refused to make more than 2 movies a year. Why? Well, if he made a third movie, that would have pushed him into 300,000, put him in the highest tax bracket. And between the federal taxes and the state taxes in California, he would have made nothing for the year. So it was better to work less and make more. But you're right. Today, things are historically low. One thing that we're seeing a lot of today are doing a lot of Roth conversions. Okay, you know, where we're converting these assets like 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, 457s, all the numeric alphabet soup, you know, into a tax-free account. And we're not doing it all at one time. You know, it's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant a bite at a time. Well, that's how we're doing the Roth conversions. We're only transferring a little bit every year to keep the tax bite down, because if our job is to try to make sure we pay less in taxes, that's one way to do it. And we're seeing an awful lot of that these days. It doesn't make sense for everybody, but for most people it does. And the impact on the bottom line is astonishing. I was just working on one account where just by moving a small amount, I think they had about 350, 360,000 in their IRA. And what we wanted to do is move just part of it. I think about 160,000 into a guaranteed product, and over a 5-year period, uh, convert it to a Roth. Well, that one move in the end will end up saving them or adding to their bottom line about $360,000 in cash that they can spend. That's a huge difference. For something that's a real relatively minimal move, that's a huge difference. And you have to be aware of what's out there. We always talk about the tax strategies. Well, those tax strategies are critical. I'm working right now. I'm doing a lot of work with business brokers and commercial real estate agents and all, because we actually have a tax strategy to mitigate capital gains for however long people need to have them mitigated. Started working with someone that was selling a business, and he was selling the business for 35 million. And his CPA said, okay, now you got to write a check to Uncle Sam for $5 million. Well, they didn't want to do that. Yeah, I know, right? Ooh, yeah, that's, just the idea of putting that on paper scares the hell out of me.
Mhm.
And we were able to show them that, listen, this is what you want to do, and you want to get a big boat and sail around the world. You can do that. We can put the money here. Heck, just off the taxes alone of $5 million, we can generate well over $250,000 a year in income.
Mm.
And that's off money you were going to pay in taxes. So there's a lot of great stuff out there if you know where to look and what to do.
Man, that's awesome, Bruce. Really, it is. And so, if somebody's watching this, Bruce, and they want to learn more about working with you and your team, I mean, where do they start? Like, what's the best way for them to connect, and what kind of things should they be thinking about?
Well, number one, kind of get an idea of where you want to go. What's the purpose when I meet with people? I'm asking them, what's the purpose of our meeting? Why are we sitting here? What are you looking to accomplish? What are your goals? And sometimes they're like, I don't know. I don't have a plan. I know I need to get one. And, in some cases, you got to start and, build your foundation from there.
Mhm.
Other people come in and say, listen, I've worked for this company my entire life, and I have 600,000 in my 401k, or I have 150,000 in my, whatever. I need to make sure it lasts the rest of my life. Whatever it is, you got to learn how to take what they have,
Yeah,
leverage it to the max, make sure it's done safely, and put them in a plan that'll work every time.
that's great. And how can they reach out? So, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, number one, you can always call me. Um, my best way is call my cell phone, which is 786-546-9302. For those people in the back of the room that are scrambling to get that pen, that number once again is 786-546-9302. And that is my cell number. Do me a favor, folks, don't call me at 2 o'clock in the morning to ask me if my refrigerator is running. You know, Another way is to go to our website. It's Secure Retirement, and that's SECU, and then the word retirement, RETIREMENT. As you can see, that I cleverly use the RE at the end of secure and beginning of retirement, kind of combine them. And, you know, unfortunately, that have people looking at it going, suck you, retire, no, secure retirement. And you go to the website, secureretirement.life, and you can take a look at what we have there. And by the way, if you go to that website, I got lots of free reports. I got lots of great stuff for people. You don't even have to talk to me. You don't have to look at me. You can hide yourself, but come in, listen, I got great stuff on that website that they can go in and get a lot of great free reports. They'll get a lot of value in. You can even link up with me on LinkedIn. My name again is Bruce Elfenbein. That is spelled ELFF, as in Frank, F, right? ELFENBEIN. You can look me up on LinkedIn. I got a presence there. You can always send me a note or link up with me there. I got to tell you, Adam, this past year has been a crazy year. Okay, with this plague, it's changed everything.
Mm.
And we're doing all our business obviously by remote, by Zoom call, like we're doing right now. And this is one of the best years my company, my business, myself have ever had. A lot of it is due to LinkedIn.
Wow.
And what I've discovered with LinkedIn, I not only have a lot of people connecting, that's great. You can build up a great network, but having a lot of names and numbers means nothing. The idea is to reach out.
Mm.
And I have people, I say, listen, schedule a 15-minute chat with me. Why? Listen, I don't care how big of an idiot you are. Everybody has something that they're better at than anybody else, right? Everybody has a special skill or a special talent that they're great at. And when you start talking to people, you get a feel for, all right, this person is really, really good at that. And you learn to build up a network that way and say, listen, I have a client that needs this. I know a guy or I know a woman who's really, really good at that. Let me recommend you to them. And it's a great way to build up your referrals, and it's a great way to get to know people. And there is no downside to that. You know,
Mm.
what's the downside to knowing an expert in the industry or somebody that is better at a given task than anybody else? That's good for everybody. It's good for you. It's good for me. It's good for my clients.
That's wonderful. And yeah, and I feel like I'm probably one of the biggest proponents of LinkedIn because that's where we meet so many people at Mission Matters. And it's one of those things I'm like, man, I feel like I'm one of their biggest advocate. LinkedIn, if you're watching this, don't forget to send the check. Come on, because we're over
Right.
here promoting for you because we love it. I love LinkedIn.
If you don't send me a check, at least send a pizza over here once in a while,
I'll
you
take a
know?
pizza. Well, Bruce, hey, I just have to say it's been a pleasure having you back on the show. Like truly, I know we've met, been on the show a couple of times. Honored to publish your work. If somebody's watching this, you haven't gotten it yet, we'll leave some links in the show notes. It's Mission Matters book, and you'll love it. And Bruce again wrote some great writing in there. And Bruce, thanks again. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Adam, thanks as always, a privilege and an honor. Listen, folks, if you have any doubts, this guy here, he's the man. You know, Adam's been great to work with. And listen, I just want to wish everybody, as you say, we're on New Year's Eve, everybody have a beautiful year. Let's make 2021 a great year. Um, Screw that virus. Let's kick it to the curb.